Good evening. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We will start with roll call.
Director Assad Lucas.
Here.
Director Battistelli.
Here.
Director Goldstein.
Here.
Director Marsh-Holshin.
Here.
Director Potter. Here.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as stated.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
Director Assad Lucas.
Aye.
Director Battistelli.
Aye.
Director Goldstein.
Aye.
Director Marsh-Holshin.
Aye.
Director Potter. Aye.
All right, rise if you are able, and for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Start off with the superintendent update.
Thank you, Lori. So just doing a quick check-in with the board to make sure that where we stand on an important piece of legislation continues to reflect the will of the board. Have had quite a bit of communication with you all in the last week to 2 weeks about House Bill 1448, which is a bill that proposes to change the School Finance Act for the 25-26 school year and beyond. It's marketed as a bill that advances equity, and it proposes to do that largely by increasing the amount of funding that we would receive and other districts would receive for students who either are identified with a disability, who are multilingual learners, or are identified as at risk, which in most cases reflects a student who qualifies for free or reduced lunch. I think I heard the word equity 200 plus times during the testimony on the bill in the House Education Committee a week or so ago, and that testimony went on for probably close to 6 hours. So there were lots of equity references that day. And the theory that I still have is that this bill won't advance equity interests until we first address the huge discrepancies in mill levy override funds that exist between the districts within the Denver metro area. And what that it looks like in our district, and I know this is probably review for most on the board, perhaps not as much for our audience, but there are 15 metro area school districts, and we are 13th out of 15th in terms of the supplemental revenue per student that we receive from our community. We receive about $1,900 extra per student. It's lower still in our neighbors to the east and 27J, who get about $1,100 extra per student. It's even less to our neighbors to the southeast. In Adams 14, they receive about $900 per student. At the high end of things, Inglewood receives about another $4,500 per student. Boulder Valley receives about $4,450 extra per student. And there are innumerable districts that are receiving about $4,000 more per student, including Denver Public Schools. Those discrepancies, when you start to multiply them on a per pupil basis by all the students you serve, which in Adams 12's case is about 35,000 kids, add up to tens of millions of dollars. And so if we had the same per pupil funding as Boulder Valley, we'd have another $91 million a year to use to compensate staff, to add staff, to provide programming to students, to fix our buildings, etc. If we had the same per pupil override funding as Denver, we'd have another $74 million per year for those same purposes. And unfortunately, what 1448 will do, given the runs that we've seen, is largely lift up school districts largely in the same ratios, not significant differences from where we stand currently against a district like a Mapleton, a Westminster Public Schools, or even a DPS. So the ratios of new money will go up in the same amounts, but those huge gaps between us and the other districts based on mill levy overrides will persist. And we already see the outcomes that result when there are those huge discrepancies in funds and there is a shortage of qualified personnel to serve our most needy students in our district. So I think it's not front page news in this setting or anywhere else to hear that we have struggled, and just about every district in the metro region and in our country has struggled in recent years to hire enough special education teachers, special education paraprofessionals, teachers to work with multilingual learners to help them develop English speaking and writing skills. And we've all struggled in many cases to find teachers to work in Title I schools Where I feel like it's most acute is in the middle school and high school areas, especially in content areas like math and science. We have over 50 vacancies in those areas right now. And what we often hear from educators and applicants or people who are looking at their options is, we'd like to work for you. We feel like this is a good place and we like the way that you do business, but I can make another $20,000 a year if I go work for District X, Y, or Z. And the reason why they can make $20,000 more in District X, Y, or Z is because they have so much more mill levy override money than us. And it just creates huge competitive advantages and disadvantages about getting talent in, which is the way that you do equity. The way we do equity and lift up kids who have big challenge in their life is through highly qualified staff to serve their needs. I don't think you need a PhD in economics and labor economics to figure out what I've just said, and yet it feels like these arguments have gone on deaf ears with lots of the legislators that we've worked with. And so I'm really frustrated about that piece. And I'm especially frustrated knowing that our taxpayers in Adams 12 already invest heavily in our district, and they do so at tax burdens that in many cases are 3 times the amount that they would pay if they were in a community like Inglewood or Boulder. We just are, unfortunately, 15th out of 15 school districts in the metro region in terms of what our property values are on a per pupil basis. 27J is right behind us at 14th. And I don't know that there's going to be a lot of opportunity to change that in a dramatic way in Adams County in the foreseeable future. There's places like Adams 12 that were built to be bedroom communities back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. We're only 65 square miles. Most of it's built out. Most of it's residential. So to really grow our property tax base, the way to do that is to get lots of commercial buildings in place, and there's just not a lot of room to build 100-story office buildings like what they have in Denver, and a lot of the things you see in communities like Boulder, Denver, and Inglewood. So we've been fighting really hard on this issue. Myself, Lori Goldstein has been spending a tremendous amount of time working with our legislators on this. Gina Lanier and Aaron have been hard working on this effort as well. We still have some hope that one of the things the legislature has screwed up for the current year might be addressed to some degree. One of the things the legislature has done is tried to recognize that some school districts are property poor and the tax burden for their communities is much higher when they try to provide supplemental funding to their communities. And so starting 2 years ago, bipartisan legislators started to allocate funds, $10 million the first year, $23 million for the current year, to try to give a little bit of matching money to low property wealth communities so that you could bring more revenue in and take a little bit of the sting out of the disproportionate tax impacts that exist. Unfortunately, the formula they've developed is badly flawed, and in the current year, that $23 million, which may now be reduced down to $21.1 million, we're trying to get to the bottom of the why behind that. But either way, whether it's $23 million or $21.1 million, we know that roughly 87% plus of that money is set to go to 4 school districts in El Paso County. With a single one of those districts, the Falcon District, set to get $9.4 million out of what currently appears to be $21.1 million in funding. It's a badly flawed formula. We've been working with legislators to try to change this since late May of '23. Really disappointed that it hasn't been fixed. We're going to continue to fight to try to get some portion of money into our coffers for this current year. We've worked hard with the Speaker of the House to have a study done for next year to fix that. Our hope is that the legislature will start to invest more money in mill levy override inequity solutions in future years, because it's really the biggest game changer in our state right now in terms of who we can hire, what positions we can fill, and the opportunities that we provide to our kids. So that's been my life lately. I think many of you up here know it from the text messages you've seen from me. I'm obsessed with this in ways that are not very healthy, but it feels like one of the most unjust things that I've been a part of closely for a long time, and we want to fix this so that we can better serve our kids in our community. So that's the big thing on my mind. Beyond that, I think you've seen from myself and from Mila, there's a whole lot of work going on in the personnel space, including just a lot of hiring decisions related to principals, assistant principals, and other leaders in our system. We're close to done, which feels great. And then the other big thing that we're working on relates to Blueprint and what should we invest in terms of a bond and an override if the board puts those things on the ballot. And we look forward to telling you more about that later in the agenda. That's it from me.
Thank you. Board of Education comments, recognitions, awarded visions. We'll start with Director Potter.
Thank you. Mr. Godowski, you're always a tough act to follow, but I do want to take some time to recognize how much work you have put into this. You always seem to be able to fight with so much passion and intensity for what is best for our kids, regardless of kind of what the odds are or how difficult it may appear. So I want to thank you for taking all the time that you have to really dig into this and try to do what is best for the students here. I know it doesn't just impact the Adams 12 kids, so thank you for all the things that you do. On a brighter note, I attended the Food for Hope Gala last week. I was also able to stop by Rotary of Westminster and their wonderful gala last week as well. Both really great organizations. I was happy to be included, and it's just like usual, it's wonderful to see the community come together and support such great causes and organizations. And that is it for me.
Thank you. Director Marsh-Holson.
Thank you. Well, happy May Day, everyone. And I think it's great to always recognize the labor in this country and the workers and our teachers. So congratulations to all the teachers who have been nominated, classified staff, everyone, and to our seniors who are starting graduation, which I have to say my first year is keeping me up at night a little bit, going over the graduation calendar, but I'm very excited. So I missed last board meeting. I was in DC for work with Easter Seals, but was able to attend the Westminster Chamber before I left for that, and then came back to the 5-star run, which was very fun. I did not win. Very muddy, so great. It was very much better attended than I thought it was going to be. So it was really a great time, and the staff did a great job, or the foundation putting it on, and great community event. I also attended the Rotary as well, and the roast was very fun, and it was great to see the community. And then Director Goldstein and I attended the Adams County Mayor and Commissioner Youth Award event last night, and it was wonderful to see students being recognized for not just their academic achievements, but their community values and their overcoming adversity. So it was a wonderful award ceremony. That's it.
Thank you. Director Battistelli.
Thank you for the reminder. Today's May Day, yay. So for all of our workers who keep this country functioning, my gratitude goes out to them. In honor of Asian Pacific Heritage Month, I was thinking about what I might share, and I thought it could be useful to learn about some of the famous Asian Pacific Americans who live in Colorado or have lived in Colorado, and I was doing some research on that. And one notable individual is Chin Lin Su. He moved to the U.S. from Canton, China, I probably pronounced that horribly, in 1859 to escape the Civil War occurring in China at the time. He started out as a gold miner, and he was so good at his job that he eventually became a mine manager and an owner, and he started some supply stores. He was an esteemed business and civic leader in Colorado. In 1880, there was a racially motivated riot against Chinese Americans, and he did live on Market Street in Denver at the time that riot occurred. But what's notable is that despite the violence, he was one of the few Chinese immigrants who remained, and he took pride in calling Denver his home. The other notable pieces are that his daughter was the first Chinese American child born in Colorado, and there's actually a stained glass portrait of him in the Capitol building. So I had a very busy past couple of weeks, and I got to do one of my favorite things, which is visit schools. I visited STEM Lab first, which is where my son currently goes to school. And I mean, I already went in with, I love STEM Lab. I love what they do. And some of you may know that In addition to the STEM focus, it's very much a problem-based learning focus, and the kids are always working on some sort of project where they take their knowledge and they put it to use and they come up with solutions to problems. So an example of that is my son worked on, he was learning ratios in math, and then they took that and applied it to the problem of plastic in the ocean. And they came up with some different solutions and they presented it to stakeholders in the community. So STEM Lab does really great work. And I wanted to explore some different things in STEM Lab when I went to visit. So I did get to go see some of the classrooms and, you know, the kindergartners, the first graders, second graders, third graders, lovely articulate kids. And then I was able to go and hang out in the library, which is sort of my place. It's if I could choose the happiest place on earth, it would be the library. So I got to hang out with the librarian, and what I want to they have a really robust, wonderful nonfiction selection. I guess that shouldn't be surprising because it is a STEM school. But the other thing is I got to see a really neat practice at play. There is a third grade teacher. I believe her name is Ms. Simpson. She has arranged it so that each student is paired with at least 2 staff cheerleaders. And so those staff cheerleaders, when the student does something really celebratory or wonderful, will come to class and celebrate their achievements with the entire classroom. And then the second thing that they do is if the kid is struggling or having a hard day, then that kid gets a pass to go and talk to their cheerleader, who sort of coaches them and mentors them through this process. And the librarian was a staff member for one of those kids. And so I saw one of the kids come in, and she slipped the teacher a note, and I gave them the privacy that they needed. But what I did here, and what really warms my heart and reminds us that schools are supposed to be villages, and that all of the staff support our children, is I heard the librarian giving the girl a pep talk. And she was like, "Come on, I know you can do it. You do great work. Just keep working hard, and you're going to do fine." And so being able to hear that and see that, I really give kudos to Ms. Simpson for her idea there. I thought it was wonderful. The second school that I visited was Glacier Peak, and that is the school that my son actually came from. And I think Mr. Griffin created a great culture there, and the Principal Costa now at the school, I think she's doing a great job carrying that on. I was able to shadow her and see what the kids were working on. I sat with some of the kids while they were working on their math journals, and they were showing me how they use their new math to add in very cunning and bright ways, and the different ways that, you know, each student can bring their own process to it. There are multiple ways to solve problems. That's the whole point of new math, right? I was able to sit in on a third grade professional learning community, and they're doing something at Glacier Peak that's, I think, sounded really fun, and it's called Night of the Notables. And I think other schools have done this before, but what the students do is they research important individuals in American history, and then one night they dress up as individuals, and the parents come through, and the parents have to guess who the kids are. So the kids need to, there are a lot of wonderful pedagogical things at place there. They're working on critical thinking skills, obviously. They have to guess what kind of questions their parents are going to ask. They have to be prepared for those questions. They have to do research. It's interdisciplinary because the music teacher has them singing a song, and the art teacher has them working on trading cards on their individuals, and it's just a really wonderful problem-based project that's happening at Glacier Peak soon. The teachers and staff and also watching a PLC work was really helpful for me as a parent, because we get to see how much time and dedication above and beyond the teachers are planning these things, and they're putting in those 3 or 4 hour shifts after their school day has ended to make these programs really work. And I think that was just a good reminder of, how dedicated our teachers are. I also was able to visit one of the happiest severe support needs classrooms I've ever been to. The kids were really engaged, learning things, and it was just a really positive, warm environment. The art classroom was amazing, very energetic, but you could tell the kids were on task and working on things. And it was the same thing with the music class. She incorporates a lot of movement. They were doing folk dances. It was pretty amazing. Finally, I got to do a Grizzly shout out for one class, needed one more Grizzly shout out to have a class party. And I was able to be that person who helped them get that final Grizzly shout out. And that meant the world to me to see them so happy. And they were, so eager. They really wanted that last one. They'd been working so hard. The other things I did is I attended the Food for Hope Gala with Director Potter, and I'm so glad that she was there. Galas are not my thing, but I did it for all of you. No, I'm kidding. I got through it, and the Food for Hope is really a wonderful organization. They support some of our food closets in Adams 12, and I was happy to be there and support our Adams 12 family liaisons who play an active role in facilitating with those organizations. And the Food for Hope organization, I think their big task this year is to try to raise $2 million so that they have an actual facility of their own where they can do these things. We did the District Art Awards ceremony, which is wonderful, seeing how proud the parents are of their kids, and seeing kids, us celebrating artistic pursuits, I think is really important. And I think that's it, but I can come up with some other stuff. I'm kidding.
You've been busy. Director Assad Lucas.
Hello. Welcome, and thanks for being here tonight. So some of the fun things that I've been able to do, also attended the Adams 12 5K, one of my most favorite events. This year, I think we all woke up and it's like, okay, is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen? It was the one day that it snowed this month, I feel like. And so we all got our emails a little after 6:30 saying it's going to happen. So we showed up, and it was a much better turnout than even I had anticipated, and so much fun, just great energy as every year. And Alexis got first. So she showed up a little late, walked up to the first water
I
station.
went to the cheerleading side and walked back, and my time was so good in that 500 feet I walked, I came in first. I did not.
There's a chip on your bib that times you.
So that was fun. No, but it was just a great event. So highly recommend. Next year, I think they've already announced the dates. I cannot remember when it is, but yeah, it's always a great time. Again, rain, snow, or nice weather. Later that evening, as a parent, attended the Studio School Social, and this is such a great event that they do. It's a big fundraiser. And I went a couple years ago as a board member, but one of my daughters has gone there the past couple years. And this year they did a murder mystery. And this is such a great way for staff and parents to come together and just mingle and interact and just kind of celebrate the hard work they've done throughout the year as a school. And I'm sure other schools do similar engagements as this, but it's really fun. However, so Alexis also attended that as a future parent, and we learned we are really, really, all the research we've done with Dateline and 2020 and reading murder mystery books, we solved the crime. We solved it. We were one of 3 teams to solve it. And so we were on teams with our husbands, and they did not solve it. They were not helpful. So no, it was just a great event. Then attended the District Art Show ceremony on the 23rd. And, we know how talented the level of talent we have in our district, but that just really, really shines. Our students are able to shine on their talents. It's such beautiful work, and so much goes into that. And it's just such a great way to celebrate the students in ways that they can express themselves, create in a creative way. And so really appreciated being a part of that and getting to celebrate all the students, elementary and secondary. Also attended the Westminster Rotary fundraiser for CASA, and so if you're not aware what CASA is, it is court-appointed special advocates, and these are individuals that really support and help within the court process for kids who really need that at the time of their lives. And so we got to watch the roasting of Dr. Pam Swanson, who is the superintendent of Westminster Public Schools, and is retiring after this year. And it was just such a great, fun event. And again, just highlighting the importance of CASA and what they do. The last thing I want to talk about is I have 2 kids at different levels participating in sex education currently. And I sat on both of those committees, actually for elementary and high school, as a parent and as a community member when developing the curriculum. And so now I kind of get to see it in action as a parent. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with how it is being implemented. I'm really impressed with how it is being worked through with the kids that is age appropriate at the different levels. So I have a high schooler and then elementary. And I have to say, so I know I've said this numerous times and shared this about myself, but I am a therapist who's certified to work with offenders, sex offenders, and then victims of sexual abuse and assault. And I've been doing it for almost 17 years now. And so one thing that has always, that we know, I mean, research shows this, but I just have known also through experience, have been told that when we can educate our kids in a healthy way in understanding consent, understanding just simple things like the difference between privacy and secrets, understanding their bodies, understanding boundaries, it really is such a huge protective factor. And so I really appreciate, and I know it's part of legislation as well, but I really appreciate the work that the committees have gone into with developing the curriculum to make sure that it is thorough and thoughtful and research-based. And so, again, just as a parent and having those conversations with my kids at the end of the day of what they've learned and what they talked about and how they talked about it, it's pretty right on track of what research shows. So, again, such a great opportunity to build those skills and help continue keeping our kids safe and healthy for years to come. So that is all I have this evening.
Thank you. So I've had a busy 2 weeks. Going back to our last meeting, the next day, we had LRPAC, which you'll find out more about later. I got to go to Stookie with members of the staff to award the Guest Teacher of the Year. That was fun. And I had just been there a couple days before. And then I went over to Mountain View Elementary where they actually had a sign language concert. Yeah, I mean, they signed songs, and it was so cute. The theme was Good Vibrations, kind of a Beach Boy kind of theme, and a couple other members, there were some staff members from the district that were there too. And then I went over and did the last equity and engagement team meeting. I too did the 5-star 5K, and I dragged my son along. Actually, I didn't have to drag him that hard, and I didn't tell him he had to run, but he teamed up with Amira's husband and friend, and
Who's an ultra marathoner.
and Jason Romero is? Oh, well, and he stayed with my son. And my son did pretty good. At 3 miles, he had to step aside for a minute and had a little, got sick. He just jumped back on the course and finished the race. And by the time I got done, because I walked, he was sipping his hot chocolate, and he was just fine. But it really was fun. And, you know, even if it's cold, cold is good weather for running. And I really liked the Mario Brothers station. They really put a lot of effort into that. So that was great. Popped over to Centennial that next week and hung out with Gina Payne, the principal, and she showed me around things going on there. And then on the 23rd, I went to, it wasn't a CASB thing, I just knew about it from CASB, Power of Effective School Boards. And went down to DU, to the Morgridge School of Education, and one of the presenters was our own Mila Shepherd, and got to listen to things about, you know, the pipeline of educators, board superintendent relationships, and equity. So it really was a very valuable morning. And then I went to the District Art Show Awards that night. Spent some time over at Northmore, and I got to know Deb Roberts, the principal. Sarah Roberts. I always want to call her Deb. I don't know why. But anyway, it was really worthwhile hanging out there and seeing all the things going on there. And we had an IBS session. Then on the 25th, I felt bad. I kind of got lost on the way to Thunder Vista to give the Classified Employee of the Year award. I was a little late to that party, but I made it. And that's a big campus. I parked where they told me to park, but then nobody let me in, so I had to walk all the way up the hill and in the front door, and almost didn't even get in there because everybody was in the gym, but I made it. And then I had the roast that night, and that was something that I spent a lot of time on since it's my Rotary, and working with Dr. Swanson to pull it off, and WPS was a lot of effort. Now, Chris did get a shout out about snow days. Charlotte Chancho from Mapleton was there, and even Brett Miles from Case was even there. And it really was a great event, raising money for CASA and for the Rotary, because we do a lot of cool things in our community also. I visited McElwain earlier this week, and then I also went to a thing with the Rocky Mountain Partnership and learned about their new, what they're putting out for their new strategic plan. It focuses on things like kindergarten readiness, 3rd grade reading, 8th grade math, career workforce readiness, all things that are very important for making sure our children get and going on to their career. So they really do have a cradle to career mindset. And, we're all part of this partnership. So kind of breaking down silos so that we all know what's going on is really good. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to sit down with our county commissioners, and Superintendent Godowski came with me, and we talked a little bit about things going on in our school district, and they gave us some insights as to what they're working on too. So that's a great partnership too, considering we do have some schools that are in unincorporated Adams and not in one of our 5 communities. And then I got to go to the Mayor Youth Awards too. And I got to multitask because I also am the representative on the Broomfield Urban Renewal Authority. So I was allowed to Zoom in. So a couple of my friends on City Council in Broomfield texted me and said, I have 10 minutes. Went and found a corner, got on the Wi-Fi, and I Zoomed in for my vote that I did. And it really so if you know anything about Broomfield, the First Bank Center they're getting rid of it. And there's other things that are in the fallout, like the parking structure, for example. So had nothing to do with Adams 12, but it is my responsibility, so I did it. And today I was over at McElwain after school, and they had a community fair. And it was amazing what they had there for their kids and their kids' families. And I picked up stuff to bring so that I could tell everybody. Talking about the library, Kids First was there. They're the ones who do the clinic at Thornton High. TPAC is another community organization that offers free health care, and they just address all these needs. And they also have a low-cost pharmacy. There was a dental there, Adventure Dental, Vision, and Orthodontics, making sure our kids get screened for their teeth and for their vision. And then somebody from SNAP was there. And then Anything Library was talking about their summer programs. RTD told me to make sure everybody knows that kids under ages 19 and under get to ride for free through August of this year. And then Highland Hills was there. And if you have any 14-year-olds that need something to do, they're hiring. They hire you at 14 and 15 and 16 and on. So they also had giveaways. They had shirts and shorts and soccer balls and basketballs and socks. There were a lot of people there. It was really fun to watch that involvement. So that's what I've been up to. All right. On to board committee liaison reports. We'll start with the DAC.
I always over-prepare, sorry. So the DAC committee met last Wednesday. It was a good meeting. I think they're going to be sharing with us the results of their spending survey soon. They do have applications available now on their website for those parents and community members out there who might want to participate. I do encourage it. You learn so much about the district and how it functions. The presentation, we received a presentation from Aaron Oberg, who is performing one of his, he noted like there are 3 times a year where he has to do really important survey or presentations, and that one was to our group. And our parents on the DAC committee did a really great job asking very pointed questions, and they showed a lot of interest for discussions around school finance, which is not the most interesting topic. But, you know, they asked a lot of really great questions. He detailed factors that influence the budget-making process at Adams 12, and, you know, that's really helpful for parents to know. How do we set our budget? How do we decide on our priorities? He covered the status of the budget as being in flux due to the Assembly being in session, and how the Assembly continues to refine our finance language, much to Superintendent Godowski's chagrin. He talked about bonds and mill. I mean, just kind of goes to show you how much we learn in those committees. He talked about bonds and mill levies and how they have been used, how they can be used, to some degree, how they might be used in the future. A broad portrait of what's currently happening in school finance and pressures affecting districts throughout Colorado. And he provided a brief kind of heads up on initial results we've had around survey on bond and mill levy overrides. Then the group also talked about spending priorities, the spending priorities survey. I won't go into that too much because they're going to do a whole presentation for us in a couple of weeks, but I will say that last year they had 11 people respond to the spending survey. This year they had 46, which is, okay, 46 is not a lot, but it shows you that they've really been working hard on getting increased participation, and that's the important part. They also made it available in 4 languages. So again, it's showing their really concerted attempts to bring in better diversity in understanding parents and community members and their desires around spending. There was discussions around the usefulness of the survey for principals because there was some really great information there to help the principals sort of shape their work with the SACs, the school accountability committees. And that was it. It was a really great meeting.
Thank you. So I went to the LRPAC meeting a couple of weeks ago, and Joe Fernandi has this nice little tool he likes to have us use called Menti. And all you do is aim your phone at the QR code and it opens up to questions. We spent a lot of time talking about possible proposals for a mill and a bond. And we had a lot of table talk, just in small groups around the room, and that information's been pooled. And I do believe that LRPAC might be coming here at the next meeting to give us more details. But yeah, it was a good meeting, and stay tuned. All right, general public comment.
Good evening. The board welcomes public comment to learn about the preferences and concerns of the Adams 12 5-star community. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Please use the microphone and state your name and city of residence before beginning your comments. Please give any handouts or information you would like to share with the board to Lee Coca here to my right. Speakers will be prompted when I raise the 30-second sign. Please begin wrapping up your comments at that point, and speakers will be informed when time has expired. Please end your comments at that time. The first speaker is Amber Gerace.
Now? Yay, it is. Hi, I'm Amber, and I'm from Thornton. And first off, I'd like to say thank you to Priscilla and Bo for transferring my daughter during some difficult times. I've been come to known as an advocate to different parents, especially special needs parents, and now teachers as well. I started a petition that was just trying to get a open public forum at Woodglen Elementary, and I had over 43 signatures, and I had 20 different staff members, including teachers as well, wanting to have a forum at Woodglen to speak with the principal. And most of their concerns, my statement never had anything to do with anybody else, except we would like a public thing. But all of the comments that I received was because of the principal. She's bullying teachers, and we've had teachers come forward stating that she called a staff meeting and berated all of them, cussing at them and calling them names, would not let them talk or say anything else. And she has a video, she claimed, so she did that in one instance. Then we have other parents coming forward saying how she bullied them into saying that her kids who are being bullied just need therapy. And she hasn't done anything for the bullies that my daughter experienced too, so my daughter had to be transferred to a different school. And then people from Holstrom, who was her previous school, has come forward to me, and I'm just somebody who is trying to get a public forum addressed because of the bullying that was happening to my daughter and others alike. And in front of not only me, but another mother, she said she was protecting the bully. And she had Ms. Kerber as well laughing at us because I wasn't speaking correctly in my vernacular, and I guess my lisp made her and other people laugh at me. So that was another form of bullying. So if I can't feel safe with my daughter going to school there because of her and her indirect actions, then that means other kids aren't safe. Now, because she had police come and show up when I was doing this petition, other parents are so afraid to go to her and talk to and ask for help because of what they've received and how critical she has been and not doing any kind of anything for these bullies and any consequences. She deserves consequences. People from another school have reached out to me saying how she was so bad at Holstrom. Teachers are reaching out from Woodglen saying how despicable her behavior is and how afraid they are because they're getting fired or transferred, and how she berated them. So this is something that she needs to be looked at, and she needs consequences. Madsen is a horrible teacher, she's a horrible principal, and she's a horrible thing for Adams 12. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Shonda Rolando.
Ma'am, your microphone's not on.
Hi, I'm Shonda, and I'm from Adams 12. I'm an employee. And my topic is the panoramic survey that we do every year. I've had discussions with several different employees regarding changes that they've marked on the survey, and we're wondering when we'll see the changes being made, and if not, why do we even bother filling out that survey?
So Shonda, I just want to follow up. It sounds like maybe the changes you're mentioning are not in terms of the questions we have on the survey, but the changes are people expressing concern about like a supervisor. Is that true?
Sometimes.
Okay. I tell you what, I'd like you, if you're willing, to visit with Miss Molly Brandt, who's back there, who oversees transportation. We'd like to learn more about what you and your colleagues have concerns about so that we can be more responsive.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes public comment tonight.
Okay. Classified negotiations update. I see Paul Williams and Viola Shepherd.
this thing off. Thank you.
Should we just hit escape?
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Godowski. I'm Mila Shepard, Chief of Human Resources. Happy to be back here to provide another update on negotiations. And this time I have my other colleague, Paul Williams, President of the CSEA. And we wanted to share with you some updates on our work. We've met a couple of times so far, and I'm going to hand the mic to Paul to walk you through some of the highlights mentioned on these slides.
Thank you, Mila. So again, my name is Paul Williams. So I'm just going to give a real brief summary of what you guys are seeing up there. If you want more, if you have more questions or want more clarity, just feel free to jump in. Sometimes I go super fast and just expect you to kind of follow along. So feel free to jump in. So on this one here, we've just done some minor language adjustments. Article 13.3 regarding timing of work experience pay, and that's really just some cleanup of the language to make it more clear for people on when the work experience pay is going to start to pay, especially with our change in the new calendar, where we're starting in August a little bit earlier. There was some confusion about people thinking they should get that work experience in the August check, and it doesn't start until the September check. Then Article 13.5.6, that's the 110 option. We moved that to its own separate article. So that's a standalone. It used to be tied to our Article 13 and the career service stipend language, and that's no longer the case, so we've moved that on a standalone. Article 19.10, that's clarifying that the time and a half is paid on holidays as well as the observed holidays. Sometimes, especially like around New Year's and Christmas, in those time periods, the holiday and the observed holiday are not the same. And in the classified ranks, we have folks who, like in our comm center, for example, are a 24-hour operation. So those folks will be working when the actual holiday is happening. So we wanted the time and a half to be paid at those times as well. And then on these ones, we have tentative agreements already. Article 12.3, temporary leave. This is again, to align with the new school calendar. We've, for many years, we've allowed classified employees to be able to use their temporary leave time to make up for times when they are not working. So during the holiday breaks, spring break, Christmas, there was about 13 different opportunities for folks to be able to utilize their time. And then now with the change in the calendar, some of those breaks are called a little bit different. And then the other piece is it's really difficult to manage for timekeepers to be able to say, hey, you're allowed 4 days during this period or 2 days during this period. So it's so we just kind of eliminated the monitoring of the time and just said that classified employees are able to use their temp leave during those breaks. And then the next one is just we've agreed to increase our insurance payout for life insurance from a $10,000 max or $100,000 max to a $200,000 max. Okay, and then still in progress is our compensation package. We're still in talks around that. We also are creating an MOA, or we have an MOA around coverage of other duties, and that's along with our office staffs in our schools around how we are utilizing those folks and if we are utilizing correctly, and then if we're giving them enough time to be able to accomplish whatever their tasks we're asking them to do. So we've got some language working in that. And then the other one is compensatory time. We eliminated that language 2 years ago, and then we kind of brought it in a limited form last year. We brought it back to be able to utilize for classified folks to be able to utilize the 2 days in the November break and then the 2 days in the February break. And we're just kind of having some conversations about being able to expand that to give more opportunities for people to accrue and utilize compensatory time. So, all right, any questions? Sorry if that was super fast.
So just two things I would add to supplement fast-talking Paul Williams. First is that two of the big challenges that for us historically in compensation and negotiations and budget planning. One relates to health insurance, that our health insurance year runs January 1st to December 31st, and we do all this work to negotiate out compensation packages and deal with the budget in the springtime. It's been really positive for the last few years that Kaiser has given us rates for the following calendar year as early as March of the current calendar year. So they'll commit 9 to 10 months in advance to what our premiums will be. That's been tremendous. And then the other thing that is more recent in origin is that we're doing negotiations with classified staff and certified staff at the same time in the spring. In the past, we used to negotiate with classified staff October through December, and I think there were times that classified staff felt like everything's been decided in what we've done with certified. There's a fairly long-standing value that we have to treat both employee groups consistently, fairly. Doesn't mean identically, but we want to be fair and comparable to both groups. And I think it's often proven challenging in the past when we were doing classified negotiations in October to December to just directly hear the voice of our classified staff and their interests. So my read, Paul and Mila, is that the spring negotiation timeframe is working well and that you feel like your voice is being heard and that we're in a good spot of also aligning how we land with you all with certified and keeping consistency in the system. Just wanted to check in with you on that.
Yeah, that's correct, Chris. And yeah, it's. I think we're in a better spot. I think people feel that classified is held on the same standard as certified staff, and as far as negotiations is concerned. So yeah, and just wanted to say thanks to you, Mr. Godowski, and then also Mila for her team and you guys for working with us and being collaborative partners in the work and just allowing us to have a voice at the table. So we really appreciate that.
Did you want to say something?
I was just going to name that although we don't follow the IBS model that the certified negotiation team uses, ours is a more traditional bargaining stance. It's extremely collaborative and not at all adversarial or oppositional. And so it's just a real pleasure to just work through issues with the team, even though it's a different style of negotiating. It's just as positive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mill levy oversight presentation, 5C expenditures. I see Ms. Henson and Ms. Lanier and Ms. Washburn.
I would just like to add, some of us really enjoy finance.
Gina was wounded by that earlier comment from Paula, so I'm glad you said that, Courtney.
It's a necessary evil.
Is this, okay, good, you can hear me. All right, so this evening, thank you, board, for having the FAC team here. We are really fortunate to have Kathy Henson and Christina Washburn. They're gonna walk you through the 5C mill levy override presentation and try not to be too wounded by the negative comments around school finance.
Okay, very good. All right. Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent Godowski and members of the board. I'm Kathy Henson. I have two boys who've pretty much gone through the Adams 12 School District. I will no longer be an Adams 12 parent 2 weeks from today when my younger son graduates from high school. And this is my 5th year on the Finance Audit Committee. And I'll let my partner introduce herself and then we'll commence with the program.
My name is Christina Washburn. I appreciate your time and attention tonight. I'm the mother of 4 children in Adams 12, first grade to freshman in high school, so I will be here for a while, still as a parent, and I appreciate all the generations that have gone before. This is my 2nd year on the Finance and Audit Committee, and I am just really grateful for the opportunity to associate with Gina, Aaron, and Kathy. It's a great committee.
Thank you. So just going back a little bit of history, we all know we produced the Elevate strategic plan, 2017-18. I was very involved with that as a parent stakeholder, and we were all thrilled, of course, in the fall of 2018 when the 5C bond passed, and this work began to renovate buildings and really make Adams 12 an even better school district. We focused on the 6 areas of
of focus, the 21st century learners, diverse learning, outside the classroom, safe schools, social emotional learning, and world-class staff. That was through the stakeholder process discerned by many people who are invested in our school district, and that is how the money then was allocated from the bond to have the best impact on our school district. And so our first slide, Christina will take about 21st century learners.
Okay, thank you. So this slide touches a little bit about how mill levy funds have helped us move into the digital age of academia, kind of inspired through the pandemic, but we have purchased as a district enough Chromebooks for every student to have access to a device and a few to be in surplus so that those in repair, if a Chromebook is in need of repair, it doesn't hinder the active daily learning of those students. And so there's about 43,000 Chromebooks that have been purchased across the district for grades kindergarten through second. They're housed in the school, but third grade through 12th, the students are able to take those home, and just because of wear and use, some of the wear and tear on the devices, it has caused an insurance program to be created for the district. And so all families are asked to contribute to that with a reduced rate for free and reduced families. There's also, as part of this cost, a deductible plan for the devices so that as students break or damage them, it's a progressive deductible where they will be asked to spend $5 the first time there's damage or $25 after that. And so for this year, they have purchased also some digital curriculum that allows for less tangible textbooks and more up-to-date access through online resources.
Thanks. And one of the notes I forgot to share is, for folks who don't know that, and I'm going to say we should call it the FFAC, the Fascinating Finance and Audit Committee. We're basically another set of eyes. We are a check on the financial processes and reporting, and we check on the compliance of the 5C bond expenditures. We collaborate heavily and rely on staff to lead us through the process, and then we provide our own feedback and ask questions to delve deeper to make sure that everything's in compliance. And so the next category we want to talk about is diverse learning, which is a big investment in additional teachers and interventionists. We know that reducing class sizes has well-documented positive measurable impact on student success, and it's vital to their success throughout their education. And we know interventionists can change the course of a child's education, saving them from years of limited access to their education by identifying learning differences or deficits so that we can get the support they need to help keep them at grade level and working to their fullest potential. I'm very proud that of the investment the district has made in interventionists with this 5C bond money. And preschool also, as was mentioned, we know that kindergarten readiness is an identified predictor milestone for career success in adulthood. And I would just share that my own kids have benefited from years of Adams 12 preschool, and I can attest to the difference or the benefit of a strong start in your educational process. And you can see there how many. I won't read the whole slide to tell you how many staff we've added, but those are the great. Some of the great impacts that we're using with the 5C money.
Okay. Additional funding was used for outside the classroom learning, which covers the career and technical education programs. And so additional full-time positions were made available and funded for the Future Forward buildings at Washington Square, and then one at the Bowman Center. Some of these positions, because some funding came from other sources, because the 5C allotment has been fully utilized for this area. Okay, with Safe Schools, there's many factors. that contribute to the safety of our schools. But this slide is speaking particularly to security, but we have had reports brought to the FAC about the safety of like the building and the maintenance, but that's not necessarily what this slide is referring to, but we appreciate and support the ongoing efforts to keep our buildings repaired so that students can be physically safe. For security measures, the focus has been on installing facility access cards, as well as adding cameras and campus supervisions. Some more safety officers were hired throughout the district to just improve the security and to help produce a safe learning environment, which has a direct impact on successful education. Okay, and then social emotional learning. So funds have been used, the increased costs to pay for additional counselors and social workers is outpacing the yearly adjustments for inflation. And so some SEL positions have been moved to be funded under other sources. Extra funds for curriculum that were left over helped to pay for some personnel positions. Also, funds have been used, it takes a little bit extra money to pay for licensed and qualified counselors and social workers, but we recognize the value in putting money towards making sure we have qualified and licensed mental health therapists and counselors providing these services to the students. And so we think it is of value to keep putting the money there. We appreciate that it produces a higher quality for the outcome emotionally and socially for our students.
Thank you. Thank you. And world-class staff. Compensation. We know that as has been discussed earlier, and the investment in this from 5C has been has had a great impact on our district. Also committing to, because obviously our teachers need to know that we value their work and that we value what they are, their experience, and committing to this cost of living adjustment is something that teachers can count on. It helps them in planning their lives, and it will help us attract and keep the best teachers we can find. And I appreciate all the work superintendent is doing in school funding, because it's extremely difficult in Colorado. We're unique in that way, and I'll just leave it at that. But I will also say that through my years on the Finance and Audit Committee, listening to staff talk about the teacher leadership program, that is where it goes beyond compensation, about growing great teachers so that they can succeed in their chosen profession. Collaboration and mentoring and sharing of experience, developing partnerships that make every teacher better, whether they are the veteran who's mentoring or the newer teacher receiving feedback and guidance. And I remember how excited the staff was as we were finally coming out of COVID and we were a little less technology-based, or focused, I should say, and that they could start planning this program. And I think that it adds a lot of value for our staff. That's my hope, and I know that the district staff believes in it, and I think it's a great investment with our 5C dollars. So to wrap up, we found the district to be in compliance with legal requirements and no significant red flags in our work on the report this year. And if I could take one quick moment, not to make your meeting too long, but I've been on FAC for 5 years, and I'm on this committee because I participated in the parent engagement program of the 5-Star Leadership Academy in the 2017-18 school year. And this is a wonderful program, in my opinion. I was then contacted by district staff to apply for a committee, and the FAC needed people. I have no background in finance, but I was told I would also be helping with 5C bond compliance, so I said yes. And I stayed on FAC this long because the staff made me feel valued and that my service mattered. They are supportive of us, and they made this a collaborative and fun process. I have learned so much from getting to interview staff from across the district every year, and every year I'm impressed and inspired by their commitment to doing the very best for our students, staff, and families. Over these 5 years, we have made changes on how FAC operates and puts the report together, making it more collaborative and sharing the interview experience as a group. We've seen staff changes in the finance department without disruption to our work, and Gina Lanier and Aaron Oberg do a great job facilitating our processes. We have wonderful new members joining each year, asking smart questions and fully engaging in the work. I think there will be more evolution on how FAC functions and the benefit it can bring to the district, and I'm excited for Adams 12 to see what is possible for this committee to contribute. I told Ms. Lanier last September I would be graduating with my son Nick this year and would be leaving FAC this spring. Having been an active stakeholder for the Elevate strategic plan and helping audit the 5C expenditures for most of the life of the bond, it's a natural time for me to make space for a new FAC member to learn and experience all the great things I've been lucky enough to enjoy over the years. I'm grateful for my experience and how my boys and so many other students are thriving as products of the Adams 12 5-star schools. And I look forward to continuing to support the work of our wonderful district. Thank you. And I guess I'm supposed to ask if you have any questions. I think I should have saved my moment. But anyway, please, if you have any questions, Christina is right here to answer all of them for you.
I want to thank you, Kathy, for your years of dedication to this. And it's okay to feel emotional because you've put your heart and soul into it. But we know that we haven't seen the last of you, so.
No.
So thank you, though, for all you've done for us.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, thank you both. Thank you to all the members of FAC. That was also the first committee I had joined as a parent before being elected. But yeah, I think what I really appreciate, and I mean, just this presentation shows not the hard work that went into 5C, went into Elevate, the plan. I mean, so much went into that. The work to campaign for it, the stakeholders involved, the commitment, not just from the district, but from the community to support kids, and then really seeing these dollars in action. And just the work that you guys do. I mean, it's spend many hours during those meetings and outside, you know, interviewing, talking to people, and just making sure that we're in compliance. And this is such a great way to be transparent and show that what the district promised is being followed through with. And so thank you for your work. And Kathy, yeah, you know, I remember when I joined FAC, I'm like, you know, my CPA father would not be very proud of how little I know. I know enough to keep a business, very small business functioning, but, and Kathy's like, oh, I know nothing about finance. You'll be fine. So thanks. It has been great to work with you, Kathy.
Is this still working? Okay, sorry, I was just going to make one more comment if I could. My background is in finance, but in personal finance, and it has been so eye-opening, and I have just grown in my appreciation for this school district, where I work with individuals to focus on understanding your resources and how to allocate them best in your personal life. With every presenter that comes and presents to the FAC, it has just reiterated and strengthened my confidence in the school district that with whatever amount of resources there are, every department is working to put the students first, and that has been evident with every presentation. And so that's been really neat to go home and talk to my children to say just how much confidence I have, whatever the resources, and I appreciate those who are advocating for more, but that they are being reverently distributed to put the students first. So it has been just a joy.
So as I sit here and hang my head in shame, no. I was talking to my son today, and I said, hey, we were talking about the board meetings, and I mentioned that they're live streamed and, you know, recorded for posterity. And he goes, wow, that sounds really, really rough. And this is why, because now it's permanently there. That time Paula made that comment. But no, really, I do want to say I have nothing but school finance, particularly in Colorado, is such a dense, deep subject, but it's so vital to understand. And I think that's part of where my comment comes from, because it is so difficult to understand. So I really appreciate everyone who participates in that finance and audit committee and the work you put into it, and making sure that you know, things like this are tracked and that we're using the money accountably for our community. And so just mad respect and better you than me.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Paul, I think we only keep him for a year. Yeah, thank you. And Gina, don't go too far because you're going to give us a budget update.
Hello? Okay. Being short is very difficult with this screen, and I'm like, I can't actually see what it says. So this should be really brief. I expect Chris might want to jump in and share a little bit, but we don't have a lot of updates since Aaron did the presentation on the 17th. So we thought we would share some changes that have happened in the budgeting process since our March update, because those weren't necessarily fully embedded in the April presentation with the timing of when we have to get things to the board and whatnot. So I can't see it all. Okay, so on the revenue side, you've heard Chris share about this. Adams County found a mistake that they made on how they distributed our specific ownership tax, and so we are on pace to receive about $8.7 million. That will be all one-time money. It was based on, I'm pretty sure it was based on taxes collected in 2019, distributed in 2020 through 21 for 22. I think it was 3 years, and so I think I got that right. But it's 3 years, all of which is one-time money. We were hoping that some of the distribution was in error for the current year, and we'd have some recurring resources going on for that. Doesn't look like it. The next piece we have is one-time revenue for newcomers, and so I know you heard some information about some legislation that happened. We will receive we will receive literally $550,000, and the bulk of it is based on tier funding. So the way the formula worked, we didn't have a net increase in students from October count, and so we received some tier funding based on our newcomer population and no additional funds because we didn't have a net increase October count to this particular count. So that's additional one-time resources of $9.2 million that will be added to our budget. And then on the expense side, we had a few changes that happened. So one of which was some FTE that was paid for out of one-time resources in the past that we needed to solve for going forward. And so we have 10.5 FTE for special education, and then elementary specials, 4.5 FTE, which was an increase from 0.5 to 1 FTE for any rounds greater than 18. Prior to that, we would do a 0.5 for rounds greater than 18, and then a full 1 for another iteration of number of rounds that I can't remember. And then the return of the student sweeper program. And so additional expenditures at the school level of nearly $1.4 million. And then we had some additions for the maintenance of central office staff. And so we're going to maintain an MTSS AOSA position, 0.5 FTE. And an HR partner was funded partially out of a title program. And so we determined that probably needed to be funded out of the general fund, and so that 0.5 FTE has been allocated out of the general fund. And then some other additions, of course, using that $550,000 for newcomers, the newcomer expansion, capturing kids' hearts, $300,000, a two-way communication platform, $90,000, and then a web accessibility monitoring tool of $29,000. So our total expenditure increase from the March update that you received was just under $2.5 million. Chris, do you have anything you want to add on to that?
Can you talk about how this will appear in the budget or not, just giving timeframes and how amended budget may capture some of this?
Absolutely. So one of the changes that Aaron and I are making is that the board will receive the proposed budget at the May meeting, and which is something you haven't received in the past at that meeting. So in order to complete the budget book for the proposed budget, we had to have a pretty firm cutoff date of April 12th. Any decision made after April 12th may not be reflected in your proposed budget. But don't fear, we will get those things updated when we do the amended budget in January. So it doesn't stop the district from moving forward with knowing we have those resources and allocating them. It just stops us from putting it in the budget, because if we continued to make changes throughout the process, you would get a budget book in August. And we want you to have that at the time of budget adoption.
So a follow-up question on that piece. We're not going to finish compensation negotiations with DTA, CSEA until maybe tomorrow, more likely next week sometime. How will they be captured and reflected in the budget book?
I believe we have placeholders, and they will be in the budget book as a placeholder. We don't necessarily publish the numbers we're working through fully, because as you're working through negotiations, it could cause issues,
But do a bunch of truing up in January, either up or down, based on what we negotiate.
That's right. And that process actually happens every budget cycle, because during the budget process, we have an estimate of what we believe is going to happen with the pay increases, but we don't know where those are going to fall within every department because of staffing changes. So we, at a high level, budget for the salary increases, and then during the budget true-up process, we apply those to the appropriate places, if that makes sense. Great questions. Any questions, board?
Just want to thank you for your dedication to this, because I know you've been spending a lot of time looking at the bigger picture of the state and the formula that is being proposed in 1448. So she's been burning the midnight, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning oil. So thank you, Gina.
Well, luckily it's a team effort and not just me doing it, because I probably would be a little crumpled mess on the floor if it was just me. So I'm very grateful for the work Aaron, his team does, and the entire cabinet team. This is an incredibly collaborative process, the entire budget process, which I've worked in 4 school districts, and I have not seen anything as collaborative as happens here. And I say that truly.
Thank you. Anybody have any other questions or comments?
Just thank you for everything. I mean, as complicated as this all is, you just lay it out for us in a way that is easier to understand. So really, yeah, I mean, thank you to you, your team, everybody.
Okay, thank you. On to the next agenda item. I see Joe coming on over for Blueprint.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We have 3 items that we would like to share with you this evening related to Blueprint. So as you know, we have gathered a tremendous amount of input and feedback over the past several months on our various facilities and programming needs within the district. We've talked to LRPAC extensively, our other board committees, FAC and DAC. We've had the Blueprint Task Force, community survey, looking at our various needs, as well as most recently polling. So based on that input, we'd like to share with you this evening our best thinking currently in terms of what investments would be included in a $830 million bond, as well as a $34.5 million mill levy override proposal for operations. So then the third item that we'd like to cover is just next steps with our community engagement efforts. And After we go through the proposals, Sarah O'Keefe with Public Alignment Communication, who's our partner in this work, will join me, and we'll walk through a virtual open house website that we have set to go live at the end of this week. So with that, we will start with Molly, who will go over the bond proposal, latest thinking.
All right, thank you, Joe. Thank you for having me. I have the pleasure of reviewing our 2024 bond. It's the one that says BOE. Yep, that one. Thank you. So a couple things. I am also short, Gina, and I've learned some things around print it out because I have been up here and not seen it. Pro tip. And second, heels. Those things help when you're short. So I feel your pain, Gina. Okay. So first thing I want to do is just share a little bit about the layout of this document. I actually was surprised. My update has more numbers than the last one. So I think this could be very overwhelming, and I want to definitely show you kind of where we're going to be honing in. So you'll see as the entire spreadsheet is zoomed out, we have two columns. The left-hand column is kind of the build your bond to the 830, and I'll talk through that. The right-hand column is our bond premium and interest and kind of building to premium and planning to premium. So we'll talk through both of those. We're going to start on the upper left-hand side. And as we all say, you know, $830 million bond doesn't mean we plan $830 million of construction. There is, you know, as you know, there's off-the-top costs that come with that to make sure that those construction projects and projects lift off. That includes G&A, which we have at 4%, our district contingency, escalation and inflation numbers, and I want to thank our finance team for helping us really anchor those well to industry standards, Federal Reserve, PPI, CPI, those types of things, to really give us a good estimate of what our off-the-top costs could be. In addition to that, charter allocation is another cost that will come off the top, and we currently are using our 2016 model that we used back for that bond, and it is estimated currently at $53.8 million. Again, additional revenue may be allocated based on the proportion less any issuance fees that we might have or expense with accounting. I want to say that really does reflect our current thinking, and we do have a meeting with our charter leaders later in the month in which we will start honing that in a greater way.
Molly, can I just jump in briefly on that piece?
Please do.
Two pieces that I want to emphasize. The CSCC acronym in there refers to money that charter schools can receive each year for capital construction purposes. And so in our 2016 formula, our charters agreed that those funds that they receive that the district, for its district managed schools, aren't eligible to receive should be part of what we factor into how we allocate these proceeds. We'll have more discussion about that. We've moved to 6 years in terms of the duration that should be factored in as a placeholder idea, and we need to have dialogue with the charter leaders about that, as opposed to the 4 years that we did in 2016. And the why behind that is we're no longer in the new school construction business as frequently as we used to be. So for most of our history, the desired pace was to do a bond about every 4 years because you were going to need another school or 2 or 3. Even in 2016, I think we were expecting to build another 5 schools through our build-out phase in the end. And now we've got Thunder Vista, which was 1, but Baseline may be it. And so as school districts get to build out, what's more common are bond cycles that are 6 years apart, 8 years apart, sometimes a decade apart. We feel like the 6-year period reflects our current and future reality that we're not going to be asking our voters as often for capital proceeds. And then the other thing that we feel like we should do differently this time than we did in 2016 is allocate a portion of bond premium to our charters. We didn't do that last time, and it's likely, for example, if we sell $53.8 million in bonds, it's a good chance that we'll receive $5.4 to maybe $10 million in bond premium. A lot of it depends on market conditions And we've got to tease through all this stuff with our charter folks who may be watching right now, part of the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying. But we feel like that's a fair way to support them, that we're going to be earning premium because of the proceeds that they'll be receiving. And we need to talk through with them, when do you want your money? Do you want it all in one big lump up front? Do you want to spread it out into a couple of chunks, which is what we usually do with the broader district build program? So I wanted to explain some of that complexity. This is a place that we took a lot of pride of in 2016 in finding a place that served all of our students in district managed and charter schools well. We had a good partnership with our charter leaders, and we're committed to doing the same this time through. And as we have more discussion with them, this might be one of many things that you see some change in as we come back to you later this month.
Thank you. All right, so as we talked about, 830 with the off-the-top costs, including the charter allocation estimated right now, leaves us with a remaining of $647.5 million to plan to projects. I will stop here and say, under this bond investment, under the teal line, you will see on the left-hand side, nothing here is a surprise from what you saw in December. These were all spoken about in December in our presentation. But there are things here that you won't see, and I want to speak to those just a little bit. As we've talked about this filter of how we filter, we have more needs than we have money in the bond to cover. We need to slowly filter this. We've been using LRPAC, all the engagement Joe talked about, to do that. One of the big ones you won't see on this left-hand side as quote-unquote in the bond right now proposal are the P8s. And we talked about the P8s at length through our engagement in the spring with the task force. And the data is good, but not great, which tells us we have more work to do in that space. In addition, we know that we've always been talking about Blueprint as a phased plan. And, you know, we were thinking phase 2 fits into a phase, or I'm sorry, P8s fits into a phase 2, knowing that. So more work and more word to come on P8s, but that's why you don't see it currently. As I walk through down some of these, on the document, there are little detail links that you can click on to learn more. We won't click through all, but I do want to kind of go through chronologically here a few of these investments. So CTE, campus expansion, when you do click on the details, it does list out kind of a plan we have for both a future forward at Bowman campus, a rebuild that would happen alongside and with the Thornton High School rebuild, and then also a future forward at Washington Square campus expansion. We also are currently working, our CTE leaders and facility and design leaders are working on what will fit in that space. Is it aviation, cosmetology, expanded welding, all those things? So that is to come, and you can look forward to seeing more on that on the 22nd as they try to put the square footage needed for each program in the footprint of the building. Okay? So that is CTE. The next one is our biggest project in this bond, and that is the rebuild of Thornton High School. You might be asking what happened to North Glen since we've been filtering. All the data has been pointing for many reasons to Thornton High School, and not just data, but facility conditions, right? And the way that building was built. It is an exciting part of our bond as it looks forward to kind of a revitalization of that area, and pretty exciting project to say we have in this proposal today. I will say that the southeast corner of Washington on their campus, we are looking at that as maybe something we can play into premium or phase 2. So you'll see that sitting on your right-hand side. If you keep going down a few more, I want to point out is the Central Food Warehouse. We've always paired that together, Central Food Warehouse and kitchen. Well, the important thing to know there is as we look at a phased approach to this is also needed. So the warehouse kind of comes first, get the ability to transport food, be sustainable and cost effective in the choices we're making in menuing for kids, and then comes the central kitchen alongside it. So it would be a phase 1, phase 2, or if upon premiums available, something we could also think about adding in at the end of this bond. School connectivity, that is going to list out a lot of our IT needs around our infrastructure, network cables, and Wi-Fi. Improved school grounds are going to be your sidewalks, paving, playgrounds, fields, that type of thing. That's a bummer. In there, I will say, if you click in the details, I'll make sure you have access when I get back to my seat. But in there, it will say things like sidewalks at 7 schools, and I'm just giving an example. But it'll say specifics, and I think Joe will have that on the virtual open house as well. So that'll be helpful to look at. Our goal for the 22nd are things in these categories of school grounds, building interiors, exteriors, that we would have kind of school by school lists for you to review and for us to give some feedback on. So each of those detailed sheets do show that. Like we have sort of interiors, your doors, your floors, your walls. We have, it's kind of hard, your exteriors, our roofs, doors, windows, walls, things like that. School safety, that's where we put our push locks on all of our hardware for our doors, intercoms, cell service, fire systems. We also have our critical systems, and that has trended very well. HVAC upgrades has trended very well and something that is very wanted from our community. And then finally, furniture renewal on that top section. And that could include everything from cafeteria tables to desks, things that can improve the learning and education environment. And these bottom ones here that you see, I listed these out separately. When you get to the virtual open house part of our presentation, you're going to see those folded in to the buckets above and where they align to. For example, classrooms in middle school for CTE will be in the interiors and things like, or will be in the CTE. So you'll start seeing those things kind of bucketed in. But I thought it was really important for you guys to see this listed out today before we did that. The things we kind of added after we had the big buckets full based on the engagement we have done are, like I said, CTE for middle schools, high school athletics, middle school fields. We have an investment there, some ADA, staff restrooms, and preschool, of course, knowing that that is expanding. So those are the things right now. If you look at the total in that column, we're not quite balanced. We still have $9.3 million to allocate, but as we start sifting and sorting all of those final details around charters, digging into the data and making sure we have accuracy, we will slowly pull things over as LRPAC starts to prioritize further. I'll lend us now just to this right-hand column. And this is where our bond premium that is estimated for income, along with our interest income, and that's about $99 million. As we look at that and we think about charters, we'll have an allocation off the top. If we just do, we have to kind of discuss what our risk tolerance is around how much we want to plan to premium, because we really don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but instead the reverse almost. But we also want to be really aware that we will have some bond premium, and we want to make sure we have a plan for those dollars. And so in doing that, this is really where we're going to spend a lot of time in LRPAC this next month in May here. So we have about $60 million, 59.4, to look to plan and then rank. What the plan is here for LRPAC is, as you can see, we have everything from emergency generators to some more CTE to AC, central kitchen, additional critical systems, additional renewal categories you'll see listed there. And then some fun stuff at the bottom around turf, more card access and cameras, some security gates and scoreboards for athletics. So as we look to see what is the priority as we plan for that $60 million of premium, we will slowly start to rank those things and pull them over and plan for those projects as such. So that will be happening here in the next month, and we are excited to come back to you on the 22nd with a firmer plan that both plans to premium in a conservative way and also plans the $830 million bond. So with that, what questions do you have or clarity I can provide before we look into our MLO package?
Anybody have any questions? Okay.
All right, I'll bring Bo up.
Thank you, Molly. Good evening. I have the pleasure of pivoting to sharing our latest thinking around mill levy override package. Obviously, you can see here we're talking about quite a different figure. The difference between being able to issue and sell bonds and then generate local funding for our schools is quite different. So much less to talk about, but very important as we switch from investments in our facilities and our grounds and the fixtures inside them to the people and the programming that allows us to provide a great educational experience to our students. Similar to the bond, you'll see off the top costs here directly to our charter schools. That typically runs around 10% of the amounts that we bring in through a mill levy override. That brings us to a little bit more than $31 million of a $34.5 million MLO. Chris opened his comments tonight talking about really genuine and specific challenges we have as a system to stay competitive in our ability to attract and retain really excellent staff throughout our system as a function of the tax base that we have to draw on here in Adams 12 and some ongoing inequities despite the best efforts at the state level to address those. And so knowing that our investment in world-class staff really is critical to the work that we do, we've got to have the very best teachers that we can in our classrooms, school leaders, specialists, support staff. You can see that a big chunk of this mill levy override would go specifically to addressing the retention and recruitment of qualified, highly effective staff members. There's really three specific areas that we would look to address with this investment. One is just ongoing compensation to stay competitive with peer districts across the Front Range to ensure that we aren't at a competitive disadvantage when we're out hiring and retaining teachers. Second place that you're well versed in is we are very interested in making specific investments to ensure we have the best of the best teaching in our highly impacted title schools. We are launching a compensation pilot program next year at 2 schools, Thornton Elementary and Thornton Middle School. And we know through that process that we have several other schools that profile very similar to those 2 schools who also want to be a part of that pilot and see the impact that that investment is intended to have. So that's another piece of investment that this bucket would go to. And then the third piece that's in here is our FAC members earlier talked about the investments we've made in the social emotional learning space and the intervention space. As we were coming out of the pandemic, we intentionally made some additional investments in those 2 spaces, knowing that we had some pretty big impacts coming out of the COVID time. And we've maintained those through ESSER funding and through one-time funding going into next year. We think that level of intervention is going to be needed ongoing, and we want to be able to provide that to students. So that's the third area of interest that we have that's all falls in this compensation space for world-class staff. So you can see there more than half of the total we have remaining after an allocation to charters, but high quality staff is the most significant and important investment we make in our operations. Moving down the list then, you see 2 pieces that speak specifically to additional investments in high school CTE. The first piece there is really related to expanding CTE pathways. So Molly just talked about plans to expand space at both Future Forward Bowman and Washington Square. This would allow us to add some new CTE pathways that we currently don't offer. Aviation, dental assisting, for examples, advanced computing and cybersecurity pathways. We would be able to add those new opportunities through those facility expansions at those 2 places. We also have wait lists for some high demand CTE courses currently. This is that second line 11, would allow us to add more sections of those high demand courses, welding, diesel, sports medicine, to be able to bring kids off of a wait list and actually get them enrolled in those courses. Moving down this list then, you see middle school investments in the CTE space. What this investment would allow us to do at our middle schools is to provide more elective options in middle schools that would align to our high school CTE pathways. So they're not to the same depth, the same intensity. They're like sample platters, if you will, of kids getting an opportunity to try out different CTE pathways that might pique their interest, spark a new passion for them, that as they move on to high school, they could delve in more deeply through future forward opportunities. So this would be an expansion of kind of pre-CTE opportunities across all of our middle schools. And this last piece, which might be new to you because it was not a piece that we mentioned regularly through our earlier engagements, but has been something that's been of interest in our system for quite some time, is providing more opportunities and equal opportunities for elementary students and educators across our system. Right now, as you know, we have 4 P8 schools in our system. Those schools have a longer school day that allows them, with a larger staff, to provide a double dose or a longer dose of elementary specials to those students. It also allows them to offer a more diverse array of electives or specials opportunities. Computer science, world languages, for example. Simultaneously, educators at those P8 schools also get the benefit of a double planning time within the day, which is really advantageous to do the work we need to provide just-in-time support and interventions for our students. So we have interest in our current thinking right now to expand the number of staff that we have at our traditional elementary schools that could teach elective courses, lengthen the day so that it's equal to the instructional day that we currently have in place at our P8s, and allow 2 great things to happen. 1, more exposure to elective and special courses for all of our elementary age students, and 2, a double in-day planning opportunity for our elementary educators. I will tell you that figuring out the numbers for these pieces, especially as they relate to additional FTE and staffing, is very tricky when you think about our declining enrollment, you think about inflationary pressures with salary. You will continue to see some fluctuations in these numbers over the next month or so as we continue to gain feedback on, are these the right pieces, and we get more clear on exactly the specific investments we want to make. These aren't far away, but you'll probably see some shifts as we go further down the road over the next month or so. With a mill levy override, we don't have the luxury of expecting some return on investment. The money is what it is, so there's no premium, but there are some pieces that we would want to surface as things that we could either consider adding in as a trade-out for something that is currently in, or could be pieces that perhaps through our ongoing desires to get some changes to school finance or other decisions we might make about money available to us that I want to make sure is on our radar. We all had an opportunity back in early March to hear some students from Vantage Point talk about the real benefits from being able to access courses that they feel are more aligned to their passions, that talked about the real benefits of having some flexibility in their schedule, that talked about the benefits of feeling a part of a smaller community. These first 2 pieces that are on the items to consider that we can't squeeze into a $34.5 million mill levy speak to adding the kind of staffing and programming that would be necessary at our middle schools and high schools to create a similar experience at places beyond just alternative campuses. So I think that is a really important investment. It's something we've heard from students and staff as in areas we think of meeting the needs of the generation of students that are coming through now is really important. But again, we had to make some difficult decisions on what was in and what was out. But that concept of more diversified credit pathways, more embedded supports for students, opportunities for more flexible scheduling is all contemplated in that $4.3 million combined in those two pieces. Another element you have heard over the last several months that's on this side is a district-wide common outdoor education program at middle school. I have had some conversations with our Five Star Education Foundation about different ways we can figure this out and make this happen, but I offer it here, one, to let you know it's still on our radar, two, to give you the idea of what that total would be, and three, to tell you that it is something that as we consider what's in, what's out, and we sharpen our pencils, is just a piece to keep in mind as we move forward. And it might be something where we need to do a mix of funding sources to have it come to fruition, but it very much remains something that we'd like to commit to and be able to offer in the not too distant future. So I'll pause there. I see Superintendent Godowski leaning in. He might have some comments. Otherwise, he does not. I'm happy to take some questions.
Any questions?
So with the hiring and retaining world-class staff, you talked about the 3 ways that might be distributed. And so I know that we're still in the planning stage at this point, and we're waiting on a lot of things to happen that have just not happened. So I'm just curious as to, in the long term, will we have more of a breakdown of that 17.5 million into the 3 groups? Or?
Yes, you will.
Okay.
Yes, you will.
The next question I had, so the items to consider, those are, just to clarify, those are off the table? Completely off the table?
They're off in the package for this iteration of a mill levy override. They're not off of our radar. Does not mean we're not committed, don't believe in that. 34.5 only goes so far. And so what that says to you right now are those are pieces that over the next few weeks, if we want to consider some trade outs from what's in, what's not, we can. But by no means does it, should it convey to you a lack of commitment or interest.
Okay. And I ask because particularly around the additional course option for differentiated pathways. Having a kid who would probably benefit from a high school that had a more inclusive approach to SPED or autism sorts of needs. I'm just wondering if in the conversations we've had with people, we've talked about it from that angle. I think sometimes they think, oh, just alternative formats for high school for kids. But I think it has larger SPED implications and could have larger implications around graduation for our SPED population too.
I can confirm that's absolutely the case, and I would say I would caution us to get down any course of thought that would compel us to think it's profile specific with any student. We are discovering that we need to be more thoughtful of providing all kids an opportunity to make some really intentional choices and to actually have some choices around what that pathway looks like. It's true for kids who are twice exceptional. It's true for kids who are on a really intense post-secondary collegiate track. The idea that we're going to find alternative ways to meet this has to be flipped. We have to think about how we bring alternative thinking into a comprehensive and traditional space.
I'll just add to this one 2 pieces. A part of the analysis that we're doing is just wondering, are there ways that we can do some of this work in a cost-neutral way? So instead of having every kid run through a freshman English class, might there be ways to satisfy an English credit through some other pathway that would be suitable and of interest to a lot of students, and maybe you reduce a section of typical freshman English and you add in practical applied English arts 135. So that could be a one-for-one trade. We just need to see how far we can go with that concept. And then the second piece is we've been wrestling the last week fairly intensively with the wonder about should we do some polling about a potentially higher mill levy override amount, and that's a tension between being sensitive to the tax burdens of our community, the whole speech I gave earlier on. We know that this is a place where raising more money comes at a higher tax burden than in many other communities. And yet we want this to be a game-changing package for our kids. And we don't want to skinny things up so much that people are saying, we missed a big opportunity and lots of kids haven't been served in the way that they deserve. So we're struggling with that, but I think we'll have even better insights by the next meeting in May.
Thank you, Bo.
Thank you. I'm going to hand it back to Joe.
Okay, and I'll invite Sarah to join me up here as well. Let's see. Just to set the stage a little bit in terms of why a virtual open house? Why have we decided to go in that direction? And I think there are certainly values to in-person open house events. One of the challenges is it's a specific time and place. You have to get transportation there wherever it's being located. It's got to be convenient for you in terms of the time that it's taking place and where it's located. And what we know is that roughly 70% of our community does not have school-age children. So we want to make sure that we're engaging our entire community and creating an opportunity for them to learn more about our needs and our thinking in terms of how to prioritize those needs. So a virtual open house really allows us to connect with more people over a longer period of time. This isn't going to be something that we just do this month. It will continue all the way through. Should you choose to put something on the ballot, it will be up there through that time period. So, and we can be more responsive as our community engages with the content and they raise certain questions. If we see a question being raised multiple times, there's an opportunity for us to integrate that response into our frequently asked questions. So it does give us that opportunity as well. And we have really good analytics that we can get from a digital platform. We know what pages are they going to, how long are they spending on those pages, how many people are using the engagement tools. So all of those things just line up for what we believe to be a more engaging experience that's going to get to a broader cross-section of our community. So with that, you will see the platform there, and Sarah is just going to give us a little tour, orient you to the different aspects of the website.
All right. Thanks, Joe, and good evening, everyone. We're looking at this on a pretty square screen, so everything's a little bit squished. It's also in a staging environment right now, so there are a few things that you might notice that you won't see when it goes live. But the banner is a little bit more spread out. The top nav isn't kind of crunched together and stacked there. So just a couple of things that will look a little bit different when we go live. But one of the things I want to mention about this platform is, in terms of benefits, is it's a little bit more accessible. There's up in the top where you see the English and the little arrow, you can drop down and toggle to many different languages, which is really great. And it's also a very transparent platform. So you'll see as we go through and I show you some of the engagement tools, everyone can see the questions that people are asking. They can vote, they can like a comment, they can like a question. And they can add to the thread, the discussion thread. So that's something that you don't always get in an in-person open house. You know, there's often just kind of a one-on-one discussion, and you don't get kind of a group discussion. So that's nice too. So let's just start with the homepage. Just something to know about these. Well, websites in general, a lot of people, they're not going to get most of our users aren't going to get past the homepage. So we've crammed it full with a lot of content. We wouldn't normally put this much content on a homepage, but we just know from doing this in a lot of other communities that
for our headline readers, people want to come, they want to see you've done the due diligence, and they want to see just enough detail to make them feel comfortable that they know where to come back if they have questions, and they know where to go. You know, if something ends up on the ballot, they know they can come back to this as a resource and educate themselves before they vote, fill out their ballot. So we've got just a quick about Blueprint, a little bit about the need. Very high level, what are the two investment areas? So we've got facilities and programming. And these links here will take you to those interior pages. That's also what these calls to action are. We wanted to really find several ways on this homepage to get people, because that's the information that you're going to see that you just heard about from Bo and Molly. That's the meat of all of this. So a few places to get there. We've got a resource center here. So this links to an FAQ, which you'll see. This goes to the Blueprint website on the district site, and the navigating the budget documents that the district has provided. We've got a little bit of a timeline on this community engagement process. So you can kind of see the items that are checked versus the star. These are ongoing, so continuing to take community input. And I'm just scroll down quickly. You'll see also here community input, and then the last thing is, you know, a contemplation by the board to put something on the ballot in August. We do have a quick poll at the bottom. We wanted at least one quick engagement piece on the homepage. So that's just that question. We'll rotate that out, leave it up for maybe 2 weeks, see what kind of response we get, and then we'll come up with something else. So I'm going to go back up to the top and show you a couple of the interior pages. So let's start with the facilities investments. So here you've got these little tiles that show high level again for those, for some of our headline readers, this is going to be enough for them. They see what it is, they get the description, they see the projected cost. For our higher information needs community, you can click on Learn More, and it takes you to an interior page with additional photos, which if someone wanted to, could kind of blow up larger. And it goes into a little more detail. So these are the live links in the spreadsheets that you saw from Bo and Molly. We've just presented it in a way that will make sense in a web application. So that's what you're seeing here. So each of those investment areas have, get back to facilities. Each of them have their own page. So I'll just click on one more. Let's click on the learning environment. So you can see here we've got 4 photos at the top, again, projected cost and more details. So that's kind of the format for each of those pages. I want to go back to that though, because within both the facilities and the programming investment areas, we have a Q&A, which is nice. So you just click over on this tab to get here. And we ask, you know, what questions do you have about the facilities investments? And over on the right, we've got your photos up here. It's important for us that the community knows that you all are listening. You're going to be the beneficiaries of all of this great input. And we've seeded just kind of a fake question. So this will go away before we go live, but I just wanted you all to be able to see what this looks like. So users are prompted to put in a quick headline of topic of what their question is, ask the question, and then you can see that we've got Molly here in this area set up to be the kind of face of the respondent. And then this is what I was saying about people could vote. So you can click to vote if you liked that question. You can click, or if you like the answer, you can click here to vote if you like the question. So this is a kind of an expandable format. So as people add questions, you'll see those below. And then same format for programming. So you'll see our 3 programming here. So there's only 3 tiles here. We went ahead and put the Q&A right below so that you don't have to click that tab and toggle over. So again, just put a fake question in here. This will go away before we launch. But just so you can see here, we've got Bo as the face of the respondent to all of these questions. And again, all of your names and photos here on the right. And then there's one other area for community engagement. So we're calling this community discussion. There's a couple of different ways. We've seeded about 4 different topics that we're hoping people will weigh in on, provide their perspectives. We're encouraging them to share their stories and insights. So the first one is, sharing your experiences with CTE. And again, we just put in a couple of ones, but this is what they'll look like. These ones, I think you just have about 140 characters, so the comment will show up there. You can click to like it, and you can even add a comment. So someone could comment on this person's initial comment here. Then we've got, tell us about a positive experience you've had with an educator or staff. So same kind of format. And then we're switching to a sticky note format for the final two. So this one's about school safety. Again, I can give it a thumbs up and it'll appear on the sticky note. And then in what ways can the district improve its school buildings and facilities? So really just trying to get a conversation going like you might in an in-person setting. And again, like Joe said, we can be really responsive to what we're hearing. If we're seeing one theme, among the comments, we could add something here. We could add it to our FAQ page. Let me just show you what the FAQ page looks like really quick. So we've got this categorized right now. So general questions about the bond and the MLO. And so obviously this is just expandable. And so we've seeded it with some, initial questions we think the community might be thinking about as they go through this site. But this is an area where we can add to it, edit along the way. So Joe, anything I missed on the tour? Okay, I'll hand it back to Joe to talk a little bit about the promotion.
Thanks,
I
Sarah.
have some question. Is this okay?
Sure.
On the website, just when they're asking questions, I see at the top there's a login, join.
Yep.
Do they need to log in? One, if they don't, can they not ask questions? And then who is, not to be a naysayer, but if some people decide to put up some either nasty or untrue comments, who is scrubbing them?
Yep, that's two great questions, and I should have touched on those. So we went back and forth on this. It's always a challenge on whether, having people register will deter some people, but ultimately we decided we are going to have them register. So no matter what the engagement tool is, you will be required to provide your name, email, and zip code. And the zip code is just so we can kind of track where throughout the district we're getting comments from. We do this on it hasn't been a big deterrent in other of these projects that we've launched. So I think ultimately it's probably a positive thing. And then to address your second question, there is moderation, post-moderation. So we, on our team and also two people on Joe's team have access to the back end. So we'll be working together to work through those. Now the site does have an automatic filter. So if the site picks up foul language, for example, it automatically will not post it. And then there's other areas where we've turned on moderation so that we can go in and approve them before anything shows up on the site. Yeah. Anything else about the website? Okay.
Okay, so how will we publicize the site? Starting on Monday, we're going to first reach out to the stakeholders that have been closest to this process in terms of our board committees and the Blueprint Task Force. Let them know it's up, it's live. Please take a look and please share this link with your various networks and circles. And then that'll be followed on Tuesday with a communication to all of our families, our secondary students, as well as our staff. We're also looking at a great opportunity. For example, you saw the CTE question where we're going to encourage our CTE students to, hey, share your experience online. So that's the most immediate plan. Then the week of May 13th, so about a week and a half from now, we will start having postcards going out to members of our community who don't have school-age children or don't have children in the district to make them aware. We'll be promoting it through social media, digital ads, pointing them in the direction of the website. And then finally, down the road, we'll have the opportunity to do some text messaging for those in the community to make them aware of this website. So multiple chances there. And one of the, again, circling back to the analytics piece, we'll be able to see what kind of engagement we're getting and change some things up or use different strategies in terms of publicizing the website. So with that, any final questions?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Look forward to playing on that.
Thank you.
All right, on to minutes. Sorry, my voice is just going. I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular board meeting of April 17th, 2024, and the April 17th, 2024 work study session as presented.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Director Assad Lucas?
Aye.
Director Battistelli?
Aye.
Director Goldstein?
Aye.
Director Marsh-Holshen?
Aye.
Director Potter?
Aye.
Okay, consent agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the personnel actions as presented and the addendum to the personnel actions provided to the board on May 1st, 2024. Resignations and terminations, transfers and reassignments, employment and leaves of absence.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Director Assad Lucas?
Aye.
Director Battistelli?
Aye.
Director Goldstein?
Aye.
Director Marsh-Holshen?
Aye.
Director Potter?
Aye.
Okay, future agenda items. As you can see, our next meeting's kind of packed. We're going to be trying to get everything done so that we don't have a meeting at the end of June. So we have like 2 more meetings left. We're going to try. Also, before then, we have graduations coming up. So hopefully we'll see everybody at those graduations. Any comments? Okay, then we